Before I get down to boring you with the details of my thesis, how revolutionary and reactionary movements in assorted times and places have adopted fable to covertly discuss, promote, and popularize their different socio-political ideologies, I'd like to talk a bit about fable as a genre. Fables are a lot like jokes. They're told as stories about past events, which may or may not have happened. They work with generic figures. They can touch on virtually any aspect of social life, though whether they should or not is a matter of taste. And they almost always have a pithy punchline. Now, there is the slight difference that the dumb blondes and lawyers who populate today's jokes are replaced with lions and foxes, and that the ever-popular blank and blank walked into a bar format is replaced with blank and blank were out hunting in the forest. But for the most part, the body of the fable is similar to the body of a joke. Many are even funny. The real difference, though, is the punchline, which in a fable is replaced with a moral. Morals are rarely funny, and usually, looking at the longer tradition of fable beyond the modern children's book, range from the unromantically pragmatic to the grimly fatalistic. Today, most people's experience with the fable is limited to grade school story time, listening to the amusing story of the fox who decided that those delicious-looking grapes he couldn't quite reach were really probably sour anyways, or looking at the pictures of a sluggish, albeit industrious tortoise, plodding towards the finish line, as the hare decides, I can take another 10 minutes of nap, and hits the snooze button one more time. There's a good reason for fables to show up in children's books. They're amusing stories, but they still have practical observations and advice about living in the social world. Unfortunately, this is where most of us end our brief acquaintance with Aesop and his fables, and this barely scratches the surface. Looking at collections of fables from different times and places in the Western tradition, all 2,600 plus years of it, we can see that our rose-tinted exposure to Aesop is only one side of the fable, and a small side at that. Most fables don't have such happy endings. For instance, where the story of tortoise and hare is so widespread in the United States that Mercedes used it in a 2015 Super Bowl ad. In the 17th through 19th centuries, the story of the frog who burst herself trying to swell up to the size of an ox appeared in almost every collection of fables, with the moral, don't try to rise above your station, you'll only end up hurting yourself. It's practically an episode of Downton Abbey, and that's one of the more tame fables. This is where my thesis comes in. I'm looking at collections of fables, some from periods of revolution, others from moments when revolutionary sentiments were ruthlessly suppressed. Within these, I am analyzing fables that discuss dynamics of power between rulers and ruled, in order to observe how, in spite of state and social censorship, authors managed to use the mask of the fable to express subversive or otherwise unpopular ideas, how, for instance, progressive authors circumvented conservative regimes to reach out to broad popular audiences with a subtle yet pointed social criticism, and reactionary authors circumvented progressive intellectual climates to encourage socially and politically conservative action. Now all I have to do is write it.